Okay, so today we're going deep on TLR4.
TLR4.
Yeah. Oh, it's
And
a big one.
I know, right? It's like everywhere.
Yeah.
And it does so much stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, how can something that's supposed to be good, like
Right.
fighting infections and stuff, also be linked to cancer?
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? It's like, how can something be so helpful on one side of things
Right.
and then potentially be so bad on the other? And I think that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating,
Yeah.
is that we get to really sort of unpack that.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess let's just start with the basics.
Sure.
For people who maybe haven't heard of TLR4, what is it even?
TLR4, well, you can think of it as like a little security guard
Okay.
that sits on the surface of your cells.
Oh, okay.
And it's constantly scanning the environment,
Okay.
looking for signs of danger.
Like invaders.
Yeah, like invaders, so think bacteria, viruses.
Uh-huh.
But it's also looking for signs of damage.
Oh, like if a cell's not doing so well.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
So it can detect these sort of damage signals that come from inside the cell.
Huh.
And when it detects either of those things, either damage or invaders,
Right,
it triggers inflammation.
right.
It basically raises the alarm.
Okay, so
Inflammation is good, though, Brad.
Right, it's good in the short term.
Okay.
So it's like
It's like calling in the troops.
exactly, it's calling in the troops, it's a fire alarm.
Yeah.
You want that alarm to go off when there's a fire.
Right.
But if it's constantly blaring,
Yeah. That's bad.
it's going to cause more harm than good.
Right.
And that's kind of where this link to cancer comes in.
Okay, so how does it do that? How does TLR4 actually like make cancer grow?
It's not that TLR4 is like actively making cancer grow, right? It's not like
It's not like switching sides.
it's not switching sides. It's more that this constant state of inflammation that TLR4 is can be triggering, especially in what we call the tumor microenvironment.
So the area right around the tumor,
Uh-huh.
that can actually help the cancer cells
Okay.
thrive.
So it's like the environment is just like
Exactly.
ripe for these things to just grow and spread.
Yeah. So it's like you're giving them fertilizer.
Right.
You're giving them everything they need to grow and spread and multiply
Okay, so
and
that's
invade other parts of the body.
So that's the bad news.
Yeah.
But I'm looking through some of these research articles here,
Yeah.
and there's this antibody that they're talking about
yes.
called UT41,
UT41.
and it's supposed to block TLR4.
Yeah.
So what's the big deal with UT41?
Well, UT41 is really interesting because
Yeah.
what it does is it essentially blocks TLR4 from being activated.
Okay.
So it kind of dampens that inflammatory response.
Okay.
So instead of having that constant blaring fire alarm,
Yeah.
you can kind of turn it down a little bit.
Oh, okay. So it's not necessarily going in and killing the cancer.
No, it's not directly killing the cancer.
It's just kind of...
It's changing the environment.
Yeah. Okay.
It's making it less hospitable for the cancer cells to grow.
Got it.
And what's really interesting is, there are already clinical trials going on
Oh, wow.
to look at UT41 and a variety of different cancers.
Like which ones?
So colorectal cancer, lung cancer, liver cancer.
Okay. And our listener had some specific questions about those.
Okay.
Like, so how would it work in each of those cases? Let's start with colorectal.
Colorectal.
So what's going on in the gut?
Well, the gut is a really complex environment, right?
Like a war zone in there.
It's a war zone, exactly.
Yeah.
You've got bacteria, you've got food particles, you've got all sorts of things that can trigger the immune system.
So TLR4 is like
And TLR4 is right in the middle of all that,
constantly on alert.
on high alert.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing when your gut is healthy.
Right.
But when you have something like inflammatory bowel disease,
Yeah.
where you have this chronic inflammation,
Uh-huh.
then TLR4 is getting constantly bombarded
Yeah.
with signals. And so
So it's just always going off.
it's always going off. Exactly. And so you have this chronic inflammation,
Yeah.
which can actually create the perfect environment for colorectal cancer to develop.
Oh, so that's how it all starts.
That can be one of the contributing factors. Yeah.
Okay, so UT41 would come in and just kind of calm everything down
Exactly.
and hopefully prevent.
That cancer from developing or slow down its progression.
Okay, that makes sense. What about lung cancer?
Lung cancer, yeah. So,
Our listener had a question about smoking.
oh, right.
Like, what is there a connection between?
Yeah, so cigarette smoke
Yeah.
is full of toxins,
Uh-huh.
and these toxins can trigger inflammation in the lungs.
Okay.
And TLR4 is very sensitive to these toxins. So every time you inhale cigarette smoke,
It's setting off.
you're basically setting off
A chain reaction.
this chain reaction, this inflammatory response
Yeah.
in your lungs.
And over time, that's what...
And over time, that chronic inflammation can damage the DNA in the lung cells.
Right.
And that can lead to lung cancer.
So UT41...
UT41 would block that inflammatory response.
So it would be like protecting the lungs from the smoke.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And what's really interesting about this is that, if we could block TLR4, we could potentially reduce the risk of lung cancer.
Wow.
In smokers. And of course, quitting smoking is always the best option.
Right.
But for those who can't quit or who have already been exposed to a lot of smoke, this could be another tool in the arsenal.
Yeah, wow, that's huge. Okay, what about liver cancer?
Liver cancer.
Our listener mentioned they have a family history of liver disease, so they're kind of curious about that.
Well, the liver is another organ where chronic inflammation can really cause a lot of problems.
Okay.
It's a busy organ, right? It's constantly filtering our blood.
Yeah.
Processing toxins, fighting off infections.
So it's kind of like the gut.
Yeah, in a way.
It's just like it's got a lot going on.
A lot going on, and TLR4 is, again, right in the middle of all of that.
So when the liver is under stress, TLR4 gets triggered, and it all just goes downhill from there.
Yeah, so the chronic inflammation can lead to liver damage.
Okay.
And eventually cancer.
And is there anything that, like, specifically causes this in the liver, or is it just kind of like...
Well, there are certain things that can damage the liver cells directly, like viral hepatitis, excessive alcohol consumption.
Right.
And when the liver cells get damaged, they release these danger signals.
Right.
And those danger signals can further activate TLR4.
Oh, so it's like a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle, exactly.
So UT41 would, again, just come in and calm everything down.
Yeah, block that TLR4 activation.
Yeah.
Reduce the inflammation.
Okay.
And hopefully protect the liver from further damage.
Wow. This is really promising.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting.
It's like it could potentially help with so many different types of cancer.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so revolutionary about UT41.
Yeah.
It's not just targeting the cancer cells directly. It's addressing this underlying inflammation.
Right.
That's driving the growth of the cancer.
It's like changing the whole environment.
Exactly.
To make it harder for the cancer to survive.
Yeah. Just like instead of just trying to put out the fire, we're also trying to get rid of the fuel.
Exactly.
That's feeding the fire.
This is amazing.
I think so too.
I'm learning so much.
You too.
This is great. But we got to take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to talk more about like the specifics of UT41.
Yeah, like the potential benefits and some of the challenges that researchers are facing.
Awesome. We'll be right back. Okay, so before the break, we were like really getting into UT41.
Yeah, it's really exciting stuff.
Yeah. It is. So it's like it blocks TLR4, it reduces inflammation, it helps other treatments work better.
Right.
But is it like a magic bullet? Does it work for everyone?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? You know, in medicine, we're always looking for that magic bullet.
Right.
But the reality is that every person is different.
Right.
Every cancer is different. And so UT41 is not going to be effective for everyone.
Okay, so how do we figure out who it's going to work for?
Well, that's where biomarkers come in.
Biomarkers.
So biomarkers are basically like little clues that can tell us how someone's body is going to respond to a treatment.
So like what kind of clues are we talking about?
So it could be things like the levels of certain proteins in their blood.
Okay.
Or the genetic makeup of their tumor.
Oh.
And by looking at these biomarkers, we can start to predict who's more likely to benefit from UT41.
So it's like personalized medicine.
Exactly. Personalized medicine.
Okay.
It's about tailoring the treatment to the individual.
Wow.
And UT41 is just one piece of that puzzle.
Yeah.
But it's a really important piece.
Right, because it's targeting that inflammation.
Exactly.
Which is like the underlying.
The root of the problem for a lot of cancers.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, but, okay, blocking something like TLR4 can't be like totally risk-free.
No, there are definitely potential risks.
What kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, one of the main concerns is that by blocking TLR4, we might be weakening the immune system.
Okay, right.
Because remember, TLR4 is a key player in our immune defenses.
Yeah, it's like that security guard.
Exactly.
We were talking about earlier.
So if we block it completely,
yeah,
we might make people more susceptible to infections.
So it's like a balancing act.
It's a balancing act, exactly.
You want to reduce the inflammation.
Right.
But you don't want to completely shut down the immune system.
Exactly. We need to find that sweet spot where We're maximizing the benefits and minimizing the risks.
So there's still a lot of research to be done.
Oh, absolutely. There's tons of research going on.
Like, what are they looking at?
Well, they're looking at different doses of UT41,
Okay.
different durations of treatment, different combinations of UT41 with other therapies.
Okay.
And they're also looking at ways to manage the potential side effects.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's really a multifaceted approach.
Yeah, so it's not just like, oh, here's UT41, go take it.
No, it's much more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
It's about really understanding how TLR4 is behaving in each individual and then tailoring the treatment accordingly.
Okay, and you mentioned long-term effects.
Oh.
Right, is that something they're looking at too?
Yeah, so we know that TLR4 plays a role in a lot of different processes in the body.
Right, it's not just about infections.
It's not just about infections, exactly.
Okay.
So the question is, if we block TLR4 for a long time, could that have unintended consequences?
Right.
We don't know the answer to that yet,
Okay.
but it's something that researchers are actively investigating.
So we're like just scratching the surface here.
Yeah, we're still in the early stages of research.
It's really promising.
It is very promising.
Okay, so we've talked about the risks, we've talked about the research that's still going on.
Right.
But let's talk about like the really exciting stuff.
Okay.
Like how UT41 can actually make other treatments work better.
Right. So this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, yeah, tell me more about that.
So remember how we talked about checkpoint inhibitors?
Yeah, those are the drugs that like unleash the immune system.
Exactly. They basically take the brakes off the immune system
Right.
and allow our T cells to attack the cancer cells.
Okay.
But the problem is that chronic inflammation
Yeah.
can actually make checkpoint inhibitors less effective.
So it's like they're trying to fight,
Exactly.
but the environment is just not good.
It's like trying to run a marathon in quicksand.
Right. It's just holding them back.
Exactly.
Right.
So what UT41 does
Yeah.
is it reduces that inflammation
Okay.
and creates a more favorable environment for the checkpoint inhibitors to work.
So it's like clearing the way for them.
Exactly. It's like clearing the path.
Okay, that's amazing.
So you're basically getting a 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
You're hitting the cancer cells with the checkpoint inhibitor,
Right.
and you're also making sure that the environment is optimal.
So they can actually do their job.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it's the same idea with chemotherapy.
Okay, how does that work?
So sometimes chemotherapy can actually trigger inflammation.
Oh, wow.
It's like adding fuel to the fire,
Yeah.
and that can make the chemotherapy less effective.
Okay.
And it can also increase the risk of side effects.
So UT41 would come in and just...
UT41 would block that inflammatory response.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're basically preventing the chemotherapy from making things worse.
Wow. So it's like a protector.
It's like a shield,
Yeah.
protecting the body from the negative effects of the chemotherapy.
This is incredible.
It's pretty remarkable.
It really is.
And I think it really highlights the power of combination therapy.
Yeah.
When we can combine different treatments that target different aspects of cancer development,
Right.
we can really make a difference.
Oh, this is mind-blowing.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It is?
To see how far we've come in cancer treatment.
Yeah, it's really inspiring.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot,
We have.
but there's still more to cover.
There's always more to explore.
Yeah, so when we come back, we're going to talk about like the different applications of UT41.
Yeah, like which specific cancers it might be most effective against.
Okay, and also like the ethical considerations.
Oh, right. That's important too.
Yeah, like manipulating the immune system.
It's a powerful tool.
Yeah, and we need to make sure we're using it responsibly. Okay, well, we'll be right back after the break. Okay, so we've been talking about UT41 and like how it could potentially change the way we treat cancer.
It's really exciting stuff.
It is.
I mean, to think that we could actually modulate the immune system
Yeah.
to fight cancer more effectively.
It's pretty amazing.
It really is a paradigm shift.
So before the break, we were talking about combination therapy.
Right. Using UT41 alongside other treatments.
Yeah, and like how it can make those other treatments work better.
Exactly. It's like creating this synergistic effect.
Yeah, so it's not just about UT41 on its own.
Right. It's about how it can enhance the effects of other therapies.
But I'm curious, like, what are some of the big questions that scientists are still trying to figure out?
Well, one of the big ones is, how do we know who's going to respond best to UT41?
Right, because not everyone's the same.
Exactly. So researchers are really focused on finding those biomarkers.
Biomarker.
Yeah, those telltale signs that can predict who's most likely to benefit.
So it's all about personalized medicine.
Absolutely. It's about tailoring the treatment to the individual patient.
And I imagine there are still questions about, like, the best way to use UT41.
Oh, for sure. Like, what's the optimal dose? How long should treatment last? Are there certain types of cancer where it works better than others?
Right, and of course, we have to think about safety.
Absolutely. Safety is always paramount.
So they're looking at potential side effects and how to manage them.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance.
But even with all those questions, it still feels like UT41 has so much potential.
It really does. It's a game changer.
It's like we're on the cusp of a whole new era in cancer treatment.
I think so too, and it's all thanks to the tireless work of researchers around the world.
And, of course, the patients who participate in clinical trials.
Absolutely. They're the real heroes.
Yeah, without them, none of this would be possible.
Their courage and their willingness to try new things is what drives medical progress.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We went from the basics of TLR4 and inflammation to this cutting-edge research on UT41.
It's been quite a journey.
It has, and I have to say, I'm feeling really optimistic.
Me too. There's so much hope on the horizon.
Yeah, it feels like we're finally starting to understand the language of the immune system.
And that's the key, right? If we can learn to speak its language,
Yeah.
we can harness its power to fight disease.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for listening to this deep dive on TLR4 and UT41. We hope you found it informative and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, the more we learn about the incredible complexity of our bodies, the better equipped we'll be to live healthier lives.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep those questions coming.
And keep exploring.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.